So for catharsis, I really want to move beyond the opening movement and the closing lines of the poem, because there's all of this space in between. And having talked about illusion and anachronism and paradox, and how they have created the emotional tension of the poem, the heap of broken images, the press and weight of history, religion, mythology, the complication of the paradox, and how that might create an emotional tension and ambiguity. All of those things have to be created in order to achieve a catharsis. A catharsis is an expurgation. It's a purging of the emotions. And so there has to be somewhere to go. We have to have been stuck in stasis, and we have to be on the wheel, moving out of it. The places where I see catharsis in this poem. One is the end of the long movement, the Fire Sermon, which engages in a variety of Christian, Buddhist, and other relationships to lust and sexuality. Burning, 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 burning. O Lord, thou pluckest me out. O Lord, thou pluckest burning. Well, that could be the great joy of having a savior remove you from the fire. The fires of hell, the fires of suffering, the fires of history. But of course, there's a strong sexual innuendo to pluckest. That image of female sexuality as a flower, of virginity as a flower being plucked. And of course, the ever-present image of desire as being a burning, a heat. And when we get to the line, human engine waits like a taxi throbbing, waiting, again we have the idea of the human body not just as an engine, but as one that throbs and waits, stasis. Tiresias throbbing between two lives, old man with wrinkled female breast, old man with wrinkled dugs. There's that paradoxical or ironical statement about male and female physicality, which of course men do have breasts, and the more wrinkled a skin becomes, the more a sagging male breast might resemble an old woman's breast as well. And this is all both salvation from the flames of temptation, but also pluggist itself suggesting a sexual fulfillment, especially with the repetition of burning, like the plucking of a flower being the metaphor for the taking of virginity. There's a strange catharsis in the paradox there, to me as a reader at least. I don't know if you would read it the same way, but after so much emotional tension is built up, even the clarity of that desire, and even the clarity of the paradox, the clarity of the two things happening simultaneously, feels to me, it reads to me like a great catharsis. Because it's clear. For the first time we have clarity. And perhaps for the first time we have at least some sense of indulgence of celebration in the body, in the desire of the body, in the burning of the body. Not just the cruel dry land, the cruelty of the dry land breeding, not just the drought of the dry land. Then we have the ending. In a way, we haven't prepared ourselves to talk about this ending, because the poem sprawls across several movements. The interrelationship of Buddhism, Christianity, Hinduism, history, it's very complicated. But there is this sense of catharsis in the ending as well. These fragments I have shored against my ruins. Why then I'll fit you, Hieronymo's mad again, Datta, Dayadvam, Damyata, Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. After movements of broken images and struggles with religious lack of clarity, with no sense of clear peace, we end with these fragments shored up against my ruins. So for them to be shored up and shoring up the ruins is the first sense that we're building in the entirety of the poem. A sense that they could create, at last, some safety, that Hieronymo's justice could be won, and that all the madness of the previous movements might be feigned. And the ultimate Hindu lesson, of course, from Lord Vishnu in the Upanishads, that Vedic reference, giving charity overcomes greed. Compassion, anger is to be controlled by mercy, equals control over your senses versus addiction to sensory pleasure, self-restraint. And there is a sense of everlasting peace. Catharsis is something that may be more subjective than anachronism or illusion or paradox. So my question for you is, do you see catharsis in the same places I see catharsis? And do you see catharsis anywhere else? Choose an example and walk us through it. How did the poem create enough tension for us to need the catharsis at the point where you see it? And how does your example then achieve that emotional purging and catharsis? And of course, I'm looking forward to hearing your thinking.